Let's go! Let's go! Hello, everybody. This is Dollar Bill on the Let's Go Network, and this is another edition of SPiTBALLiN on this rainy day here on Long Island. Plenty of topics to talk about today. You know how we do it on SPiTBALLiN. No scripts, no BS. I give it to you straight from my 50-year-old brain as I'm in the beautiful studios of basically A. Levitt Field, sitting here recording what comes to mind. And of course, you can find us on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. My people behind the scenes do a pretty good job of getting me out there. So here we go on this edition of SPiTBALL. And what do we talk about, today? There's a couple things we can touch on. We could talk about the Knicks' great victory. Okay, they've been Indiana. Let's take a chill. We ain't talking about them. But what we should be talking about, and these questions have been popping up, and I try and be topical on things that I see and read before I give you before I shoot you straight on the show today. It sounds like Klay Thompson will be making his return to the court after 2 years. This coming weekend, it looks like Sunday. It'll be great to see him back on the court, but I think everyone should have some real big reservations, about his comeback. He tore his Achilles on one leg, and then he tore his ACL on his other. And we all know he's probably the second or third best shooter of all time. He may even be statistically better than Steph, but let's defer to the great Curry. But the Warriors are rolling right now, and he's going to come in mid-season, and, he's going to be taking Wiggins minutes, or they're going to make some adjustments. It's going to be a learning curve for Steve Kerr and the boys to try and figure it out, and I'm sure they will. Adding a talent like that to the roster, on the floor, is a great thing for the NBA, and I'm glad he's back, and he's a good dude and whatnot. But let's have some reservations and tempered expectations of his comeback. Now, while he shoots the lights out, he was always known as a great perimeter defender. He would cover the guys that Curry could not. And listen, it's going to take time. And the Achilles injury, while medical advances have been much, much better moving forward than, when Patrick Ewing, tore his Achilles and came back 20 years ago, he was never the same. He was older, but he was really never the same. You do that with a Klay Thompson who's, maybe in the middle of his prime or approaching the end of his prime right now. Primes are a little bit different in basketball, but he hasn't seen the court in 2 years. And he's playing with a repaired Achilles on one leg and basically a reconstructed knee on the other. You got to think he's going to lose some quickness. You got to think that. And if you think he's going to come back and lock down like he used to, I don't see it. He's going to help. As a boxer, the last thing to go would be a guy's punch. As a basketball player, the last thing to go on a guy would be his ability to shoot. But diminished skills happen, and you just can't expect the old Klay Thompson. Now, I hope it happens, and this would even be silly to think, but when push comes to shove, will Klay Thompson make the Warriors better or worse, short term and long term? Because his contract makes a lot of money, and he's going to be diminished. Now, might he be 5% diminished, 7% diminished, or 40% diminished? We don't know. But it seems like they keep pushing his timetable back and back and back. And if I was playing Klay Thompson and the Warriors anytime soon, I would play iso ball. And whoever Klay's covering, I'd make him prove that he can defend. And I'm not quite sure if he can. Now listen, we're in the middle of January, early January. We're not going to judge everything on that. He's going to need some time to get his legs underneath him. But it's just a little bit of a yellow light, or so to speak. For the warning for the playoffs and all that good stuff. But listen, all the confidence, all the good wishes towards Klay Thompson. I hope he comes back and has a triumphant return to the NBA. Because you know what? We can always need good guys and good talent in the NBA, and he'll be fun to watch, and that's great. Moving on to a little bit different topic, as I I often do rants on TikTok and all that good stuff. I like to react to all the silliness I read, the overreactions of young people, which got me back into this and really motivated and to do these things. But, listen, Big Ben had a great career with the Steelers. He got one more game to play and maybe win. And whether he wins or not really doesn't matter at this point. But all this crazy talk about Big Ben being a top 10 quarterback of all time, can we pump the brakes a little bit? I mean, you guys make me sick reading these things. And you wonder why the world is so messed up these days. You young guys think you know everything. Like, if you don't, understand the history, which is a mystery to a lot of you young people, and I'm attacking you, and that's okay. I'm not afraid to shoot some bullets and shoot some arrows because I got plenty coming back at me. That's for sure. But, are we really going to put Big Ben above like a Johnny Unitas or an Otto Graham or a Y.A. Tittle or whatever like that? Roger Staubach, Steve Young, Joe Mike, come on. What are we doing here? Top 10, never. Absolutely not a fine 9. Never. Top 20? Top 25? Sure. I mean, am I sliding Big Ben? Big Ben, you know what? In the history of NFL football, you're like the 22nd best quarterback. Is that an insult? I wish I was the 22nd best podcaster on the airwaves. I wish I was the 22nd best of anything in the world. Wouldn't you? So, I'm not really slighting Ben, but you really have to remember your history. There's a lot of people that made the game evolve, and, was Big Ben ever the best quarterback in the league? He was up there, but I don't think he was ever the best. I mean, there's this guy, in Tampa now who was in New England for a lot of years. He was pretty good. And there's this guy in Green Bay who's pretty good right now, and the guy before him in Green Bay was pretty good too. We got to remember the history, guys. Like, you're killing me. Like, you're absolutely killing me. Big Ben, like, if you really want to ask a good question and be fair about it, we go back to the 2004 draft where the Chargers had the first pick, selected Eli Manning. The Giants selected Phillip Rivers 4th, and Big Ben went to the Steelers at 11, and we know about the trade and all that nonsense. And it seemed to have worked out for basically everybody. But before we give or anoint Ben this top 10 fictional crap that you guys want to do, was he even the best quarterback in the draft class? Now listen, if you put up his numbers are better than Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, and the wins go to prove it, and the yards and this and that, all durable guys. It's a shame Phillip Rivers never really got to the big game on the big stage because he's just a really underrated quarterback. I think he takes too many arrows and why his team never got it, to the Super Bowl. But, listen, they couldn't beat Tom Brady. I mean, that was his biggest thing. And, that's the difference between Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, basically. Rivers has better numbers. He's had better personnel. And, it's pretty easy to sling the ball when it's 75 degrees in sunny San Diego. But that's the difference between Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning. Phillip Rivers couldn't beat Tom Brady in a big spot. Eli Manning could. Twice. Now the argument becomes, is Eli a better quarterback than Big Ben? Now the numbers would dictate no. The wins and losses what a quarterback is ultimately judged on say no. But if you think about it, I think the argument's a little bit closer than people think. Because let's think about the offensive weapons Eli Manning had during his career. He had Tiki Barber at the tail end when he was really good and learned how to hold the ball. And then he left. And then they got this guy, Plexico Burress, who came from Pittsburgh. Funny thing. And Plexico Burress became a star in New York before he shot himself in the leg. Literally. And then toward the end of his career, they brought in a new coach, and they brought in a great wide receiver named Odell Beckham Jr., and it just didn't happen between those two. Just didn't happen. So he basically had one whip with him all that time. How about Big Ben? Antonio Brown, Hines Ward, Le'Veon Bell, and now this new cast of characters that seemed to know how to play some football, and one head coach. Basically the last, 15 years of his career. It's a pretty good deal when, you play in the NFL. Who are your two coaches? This guy Cowher, who's in the Hall of Fame, and Mike Tomlin, who's headed to the Hall of Fame. Never had a losing season. Listen, I ride Tomlin a lot. Some things I don't like about him, but, let's give the man his due. 15 years, never had a losing season. I wish I could say the Giants were remotely close to that, but you got to tip your hat to Tomlin. So take that into consideration in your argument. Was Big Ben even better than Eli? And maybe for the rest of the season, maybe for the regular season, I take Big Ben. If I need to win one game, I might take Eli. How do you like that, folks? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. That's it for today's edition of Spitballin'. You can catch us on the Let's Go Network. And you can find us on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all that jazz. So that's it for today. We'll catch you next time on Spitballin'. And as always, remember, make some common sense out of your sports and your life. Catch you next time. Dollar bill. Bye.